I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. All right. Happy Tuesday, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Sabby Sabs podcast. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. If you're new, I do want to let you know that Sabby Sabs podcast is a part of Revolutionary Blackout Network. You can catch me there for our monthly roundtable, and you can catch me here on Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. Shout out to everyone watching on YouTube, Twitter, and Rumble. And welcome back, guys. Let's get ready to rumble. Hey, what is going on? Oh my gosh. We have so much to get into tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight's theme is Stranger Than Fiction. Yeah, because a lot of these stories are crazy, insane, and yeah, just stranger than fiction. And you'll see that when we get to them, ladies and gentlemen. Do me a solid if you haven't done so and answer that poll question. I'm curious to hear what you guys think about this apology that is coming from Kanye West. So we're going to get into that as well, ladies and gents. But first and foremost, let's go ahead and give some shout outs to people in the chat. What is going on, fam? Lots of chatters. Greetings, Blockbuster says hi. Hello. Shout out to American Indian Man. Only way they can really hurt him is through his children. We all know the devils don't have any qualms with harming children. That's interesting. Someone else brought that up earlier in conversation today. What's up, The Real Conqueror? He got the call years ago, so I'm not surprised, but they always say follow the money. Shout out to All One Same says, I heard protests tonight in Minneapolis at 5:30 Central Time. I'm not surprised. It's so much going on, ladies and gents. Greetings, Lawrence says, Cat Abu for Congress, Illinois 09, that 9th district. Shout out to Day Walker says, Kanye got merch to sell. Yeah, there is merch to sell. Greetings, Kali says, Kanye shouldn't apologize. Shout out to Sandra says, as far as the letter goes, there's a term no longer used that describes Donald retardant. Greetings, Gup says, greeting, comrades. Shout out to Lorez says, what's going on? Sabby, Eric, Corey, and Arby and fam voted he took a financial hit. Hilarious. It's 0% as of right now that he honestly feels bad. I'm a Rams fan, so I'm not rooting for either team. LOL. You know, I wasn't going to say anything, but yeah, there was some football that happened over the weekend, and it looks like the Patriots are going back to the Super Bowl. And I know the most hated team in America. I get it. But I got to say this. The fact that we have a new coach, the fact that, you know, Mays was able to finally come into his own. And when he came last year, I said, let him have at least a season to find his footing, right? I said that about Gerard Mayo too, but they got rid of Gerard Mayo very quickly. And he found his footing, and they got the options around him. I think he has a lot more offensive options. I will say, though, I am very scared going into that Super Bowl game because The Seattle Seahawks is not a team to mess around with. They are very, 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 very good offensively and defensively. And what I saw from that game was that we could have easily lost that game. You know, had it been the other way around, where let's say those field goals weren't missed, then we would have lost that game, right? Also, weather conditions were very problematic. Let's just say that, very problematic. But the one thing that really stands out to me is that Mays is not protected. There were a number of times that he was sacked, and all I'm saying is going into that Super Bowl game, they cannot play that way against Seattle. They cannot. He has to be protected. Terry Carter said Seahawks are coming for revenge. Yeah, I know. I know. And friends of mine that are like Seattle Seahawks fans, they've already contacted me. They've already texted me. They've DM'd me on Facebook, and they said, so like I said, that is not a team to mess around with. So the reality is that the fact that he was so unprotected in this past game is very concerning, and they can't do that going into the Super Bowl at all. What's up, Sebastian says, still recovering from shoveling snow. Me too. I shoveled today, yesterday, and the night before. I shoveled the steps 3 times because the snow was getting so high up to the door. And I think back and imagine like what would have happened if I didn't even get a head start there, how much we would have had to deal with. My arms do feel like they're falling off. I'm not kidding. Like my arms are like, leave me alone. Greetings, Jimmy, says Myra Page. Hello. Shout out to, we said Sandra. Shout out to Joanne, says, hey, y'all. Greetings, Hard, says Kanye, pick up your phone. Shout out to Crystal, says, yes, just trying to stay warm. LOL. How about you? Same here. Shout out to CBC Voter, says, happy Tuesday, Sabby and Eric. What's going on? Greetings, Active Guardian, says, Sabby deserves 1 billion viewers because she's so good. But like the restaurant or naturally beautiful place, I fear that if she gets attention she deserves, it will change and wreck things. Good. Greetings, M. Berg, says, whatever Kanye is apologizing for now, he isn't much of a genius after all. Shout out to Mr. Moto, says Scooby-Dooby-Doo. Greetings, Cloudness, says, salute Sabby Sabs and everyone in the building. B1 fam, what is going on? Shout out to Umsi, said, hey, Kanye, I know you're watching. And greetings, Miranda, says, hi, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well with the crazy weather. Same here. Like I said, we haven't had a snowstorm, at least here in the Boston area so far this winter, and this one really made up for it. So I think we're good on snowstorms. I think we're good on snowstorms. That's it. We don't need any more. We don't need any more. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and give a shout out to Sabby patrons. Yes, my arms are sore. My arms are sore. Open the door. Shout out to everyone who is a Sabby patron. Let's give him a big shout out here. If you're interested in being a Sabby patron, I have 5 categories. We have the ultimate. We have Sabinators. Don't forget about the Sabsters. They're pretty cool. I know there's a group called Sabbies, and I think everybody likes them as well. And of course, we can't forget about members. All of their names are listed here, and you can also see their names scrolling across the bottom of the screen there on the ticker. And I want to give a shout out to a new Sabby patron over here. We call them newbies. Let's give it up for AJ Flim. Whoop, 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 whoop. All right. Thank you guys so much for your support. Really do appreciate you, fam. So let's get this show on the road, shall we? Okay, let's take a look at that thumbnail and show you what we are discussing tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Quite a bit to get into. Again, the theme is Stranger Than Fiction. Let's go ahead and hop to it. Tonight, we are discussing Kanye West got the call. Or did he? That's what I'm assuming. We don't know. But Kanye West has issued an apology, and we're going to get into that letter that was posted in the Wall Street Journal. He actually took out a full page ad for this apology. And why do we have Candace Owens there next to him? Well, I'm going to get into that because we're going to go back to something that she said earlier on about the meeting that her and Charlie had with Kanye and what was going on behind the scenes. And I'm wondering if this is part of the issue now. We're also going to discuss, believe it or not, like I said, stranger than fiction, this ICE situation, especially with the death here of Alex Predis, has apparently started to divide MAGA. There is a big debate going on right now over the Second Amendment. I'm going to show you, like, there's people on Fox News that are changing their view. There's people, we're going to show you both sides so you can see that this is another issue that I never would have thought would have divided MAGA, but there is division happening there. Even Donald Trump is pissing people off on that side with this one as well. You're going to see all of that. We're also going to get into this Donald Trump, Erica Kirk letter. Many of you told me to check this out, and I did. And if this is true, this is very, 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 very concerning, ladies and gentlemen. Is it possible that Trump was involved with this letter here to Erica Kirk? We're also going to discuss in a big, big good news story that I think you're all going to be excited for. That picture there in the bottom square next to Candace's shoulder, that is Larry Ellison. We have some news to share with you, ladies and gentlemen, about all the people who decided to flee TikTok over the weekend and move over to a new app where they are not being censored. And that app is booming right now. You guys got to see that. I'm over there. I hope you go over there as well. We're going to get into all of that. Greg Stoker was supposed to join. We'll wait and see if he's able to make it. But if not, we also have another story as well. And that is the TPUSA donor that we discussed last time caught. There has been some other information that has been revealed about her that I was not aware of. And I don't think you guys knew about it either, especially if you haven't seen it on social media. We have all been played in this game that we are a part of, that we did not ask to be a part of. We are essentially living in a long episode of The Twilight Zone. So the theme again is stranger than fiction. If you haven't done so, do us a solid, start us off right and smash that like button. And if you're new, don't forget to like, sub, and share, just like a Care Bear. Let's go ahead and dive into the first story here, ladies and gentlemen. I did not think that this was possible. Didn't think it was possible. I saw a divide happen in MAGA over the Israel issue. We've all been talking about that. But I never in a million years would have imagined that there would now be a divide in MAGA about the Second Amendment and this ICE situation. And that's where we are now. First and foremost, let's get you up to speed. Since the death of Alex Predis, Greg Bavino, who was leading the command there in Minneapolis, has now been demoted. And some people say this is the Trump administration caving in, but I do want to show you what he said about free speech before that demotion. Listen to this.
Calling law enforcement names like Gestapo or using the term kidnapping, that is a choice that is made. There are actions and consequences that come from those choices. And then when you choose, when someone chooses to listen to a politician, a so-called journalist, a community leader that spouted that type of vilification towards law enforcement or anything else, when you choose to listen to that, that is a choice, and there are consequences and actions there also. I think we saw that yesterday.
So now it's not only how you protest, if you protest, if you get in ICE's way, but now here is Greg Bavino saying that what you say actually matters as well, the rhetoric that you use, and there would be consequences for your rhetoric. Now that is a free speech issue. So here we go. And we were waiting to see just how far they could take this, right? Like first it's you're not protesting the right way. Then it's, okay, you shouldn't get in the way of ICE agents. Now it's your rhetoric that you use can be used against you. And you guys know, again, as I say on this show, I 100% support free speech. I'm not one of these people who's going to tell you that you can't say these things. But imagine being arrested because of what you said. But that doesn't seem to matter as much for him now because he made that statement. But then shortly after this whole debacle, Greg Bovino lost his job. The Border Patrol chief has been ousted from his role as commander at large and will return to El Centro. So he's out of there. He's out of Minneapolis. Tom Hartman is on his way into Minneapolis. You guys are familiar with him. He's been around for quite some time. But some people saw this and they said the Trump administration is caving by demoting Greg Bovino. I think they're trying to do damage control. But I do want to show you something else. Remember the gun that they were talking about that Alex Preddy had? Now there seems to be conflict over that as well. Because now, fam, the Trump administration allegedly posted a stock photo. So now we're getting information that that wasn't even the weapon that Alex Preddy had, allegedly. Listen to this.
So DHS posted a photo of a gun. We know that. You guys want to see something that other creators have found out? Yeah, it's not the real gun. They just Google imaged a photo. The photo's fake. It's just a common image. That's not even the gun that was used or owned by Alex. They can't even post real stuff. They just made up lies and posted a basic Google image of what they said they thought the weapon was. People that are still believing this administration, when time and time and time again, we prove them wrong and we prove that they are doing stuff like this, just pulling it right off of the internet. They're not even posting real photos. Why do you still believe them at this point? The photo was a basic photo. 5 days ago, that same picture was used on Reddit. 5 days ago. But that's the photo they pulled off of Alex. That's the weapon they pulled off of Alex. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and it's not looking good for DHS. It's not looking good for the Trump administration. And like I said, there is this divide among Maga now over this incident. And we're going to show you both sides. So let's start with the people who still support what is happening. Let's start with Megyn Kelly. I want you to hear what she said here. She has no sympathy. Listen to this.
I know I'm supposed to feel sorry for Alex Preddy, but I don't. I don't. Do you know why I wasn't shot by Border Patrol this weekend? Because I kept my ass inside and out of their operations. It's very simple. If I felt strongly enough about something the government was doing that I would go out and protest, I would do it peacefully on the sidewalk without interfering via a whistle, via shouting, via my body, via any other way. I would make my objections known by standing there without interfering, because interfering is where you go south. And laying hands on a police officer trying to, or Border Patrol officer or ICE officer trying to conduct a law enforcement operation is a felony. And now you are going to get arrested. And if you do anything that resembles resisting, you're in serious trouble.
So
Does it?
first of all, he didn't put his hands on them. Actually, remember, his hands were up in the air. So I don't know what she's talking about. And two, isn't Megyn Kelly supposed to be a Christian? That doesn't sound very Christian-like to me. It's like, I have no sympathy, none whatsoever. No. Megyn Kelly spoke more politely about Jeffrey Epstein than she did about Alex Preddy. What's that about? Don't know. But it just seems kind of weird. It also seems hypocritical. And this is going to show you the partisan nature from Megyn Kelly, right? Because, you know, people always find old videos, but this one isn't that old. It's from 2021. I want you to hear what Megyn Kelly said about the Kyle Rittenhouse situation. And I just want to show you the difference.
The Kyle Rittenhouse just fell to his knees in tears. He's on his knees. His lawyer's talking to him. He's shaking. it's upsetting to watch. It's like I feel like the media is just so awful, Andrew. They've been so disgusting from the beginning, and you can feel what this boy is feeling. This young man, his mother's in tears behind him. We forget people's humanity in the press. We just want to kill them. We want to go for the jugular. We want everyone to pay. And in this case, we wanted him to pay because he was a Trump supporter and he was a Second Amendment supporter and he wasn't on the side of the BLM rioters. And the media and the president and the governor put this kid through hell. And this is the only just verdict.
Seems a little hypocritical, doesn't it? Kyle Rittenhouse brought a gun, was brandishing the gun. Kyle Rittenhouse actually shot and killed someone. Alex Preddy didn't even reveal his gun, didn't shoot and kill anybody. And Megyn Kelly had more sympathy for Kyle Rittenhouse, but she has no sympathy for Alex Preddy. All I'm saying is be consistent. That's it. So for Megyn Kelly, it's partisan, right? Like I said, she had more sympathy. She was more sympathetic towards Jeffrey Epstein than she is towards Alex Preddy. So I don't know what's going on with Megyn Kelly, but she doesn't seem very Christian-like to me. That's not what I'm seeing. Speaking of Kyle Rittenhouse, let's see what he said about this situation. Check this out. Kyle Rittenhouse said, "Carry everywhere. It is your right." Someone responded and said, "And when we carry everywhere legally, make sure you also bring your ID to make it legal." He responded and said, "No, we need national constitutional carry the way the founders intended, not racist Jim Crow era gun owner registry schemes." That's the response from Kyle Rittenhouse. So you're seeing the divide here, ladies and gentlemen, the people who are saying, no, I unequivocally support the Second Amendment. So Kyle Rittenhouse disagrees with Megyn Kelly. And there's more, because you're seeing this all over the place online, ladies and gentlemen. And the libertarians, by the way, are really pissed. Okay. The Libertarian Party has mentioned a bunch of replies to people saying, no, 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 no. Second Amendment, no, you don't need an ID. Yes, you can bring a gun to a protest. This is all coming from the Libertarian Party, and they are pretty firm on this. Like when it comes to the gun rights, when it comes to the right to privacy, all those type of things that deal with people and personal property, they are very firm on those issues. And so we're seeing people fight back and forth, including Tim Pool. For one of them, he is now coming out because Tim Pool made the statement I showed you guys last time. He said he doesn't think this is going to be a win for Donald Trump on this situation because they pulled the gun away from him before they shot him. Well, apparently he got a lot of heat from Maga after he said that, and they started calling him a bootlicker. And so now Tim Pool is lashing out.
First of all, when these people come out and go, Tim's a bootlicker for defending us, I'm like, no, you misunderstand. It's my boots. It's mine. I voted for them. I'm wearing the boot. I'm stomping on the ground. I ain't licking anybody. I'm clapping for these people that I said, please go out and enforce the law. And anybody else who's cheering for it, who voted for it too, we're all wearing the boots. You're the one crying. You're the one saying you're.
So Tim Pool says that he's the boot. So this is Tim Pool, I guess, trying to find a way to come back and regain like his this guy must be the money train must be really sad for Tim right now. It must be really bad for him right now because what he said the first time actually made sense when he said that, like, well, they shot him after they already took the gun away from him. And then when he started to get the heat from people, then he lost his mind and things like that. Again, it's like his position changes depending on who's patting his wallet at that point in time. So that's Tim Pool. He's the boot. Das Boot. So we go on to what Charlie Kirk said about the Second Amendment. Shout out to Blakely for sharing this because I forgot that he posted this before. This is what Charlie Kirk said. The Second Amendment is not for hunting. It is not for self-protection. It is there to ensure that free people can defend themselves if, God forbid, government became tyrannical and turned against its citizens. That was March 3rd, 2018. That's what Charlie Kirk said, which really goes against what Megyn Kelly said. So it just, I don't know, like people seem to forget what people have been saying for the longest time. And now there's like this battle also between like the left and the right, where you have people who are on the right that are saying, oh, all of a sudden liberals care about gun rights. And then you have liberals saying, oh, all of a sudden conservatives don't care about gun rights anymore. Now all of a sudden they're just like, no, you can't do this. And it's really funny because I will say this, I think there seems to be a lot of generalizations, right? So there are liberals who support the Second Amendment. There are people that are, communists, people that are socialists that also support the Second Amendment. I 100% support the Second Amendment. And even when people were saying like abolish all guns, I was like, nah, wait a minute, pump the brakes. Pump. Because when you abolish all guns, all the guns aren't gone. Because law enforcement is going to have guns. Well, people say, well, take them away from law enforcement too. Okay, but the military still has guns. And let's not pretend like the military has not been sent into cities across the United States before either. So you're not really getting rid of all the guns. And then the people that are powerful have them and you don't. So that's why I was like, pump the brakes on that one. Pump the brakes. We go to Fox News and we see that Trey Gotti, you guys remember this guy? Trey Gotti, who I see usually never goes against Donald Trump or what his party's saying, he unequivocally goes against, of course, what Megyn Kelly said, what Tpusa said. Listen here.
And I think what frustrates people, you remember Kyle Rittenhouse and how he was made a hero on the right. I am sure there are people on the conservative side who are saying, wait a minute, you mean you can't take a firearm to a protest because you were just celebrating the guy for doing it a couple of years ago? Alex Pretty's firearm was lawfully being carried. It's lawful to carry a gun in Minnesota. He never brandished it. He didn't point it at the cops. And we certainly should not be labeling him as being a domestic terrorist who was going to execute cops. There's no evidence to support that. And I think
now that's coming from someone who has always, as I remember, defended Donald Trump and his decisions. I have not ever seen this guy like side with like a left policy or critique. And even he's saying, wait a minute now, what is happening? I'm surprised they're even showing that on Fox News. But there's a lot of debate going back and forth. And then Donald Trump today, oh my God, Guns and Gadgets is not happy with what Donald Trump just said here. Apparently the administration is tripling down on this. You have a Second Amendment right that extends everywhere in America. It's called a right, and you don't need anyone's approval or permission slip. Imagine telling people you can't talk in certain scenarios, or you were not free from unreasonable searches and seizures just because. It's time Americans push back and demand accountability and constitutionality from their government, period. That's from Guns and Gadgets. I'll show you what he said that's making people upset.
Sir, was Mr. Pretty acting as an assassin? Do you think he was acting as an assassin in Minneapolis? Who is that? Mr. Pretty, your deputy chief of staff said that. You don't think so?
With that being said, we can't have guns. We can't walk in with guns.
What about the Second Amendment?
So what he said is you can't have guns. Let's go back a little bit more here. I know it's lower when he's talking, but just listen a little closely.
That being said, we can't have guns. We can't walk in with guns.
What about the Second Amendment?
Listen, we can't walk in with guns. We can't do that. But it's just a very unfortunate incident.
So, yeah, people are not happy about this. And like I said, especially the libertarians are like, what the hell is wrong with this guy, right? Because he said you can't have guns. You can't walk in there with guns. But Donald Trump was totally supportive when Kyle Rittenhouse did that. So now you have people on the right and, the libertarians that are looking at Donald Trump and they're like, what the hell is wrong with you? What do you mean you can't have guns? So it's a problem. It's a problem. And people are pissed. Like a lot of people that support the Second Amendment are pissed. They're like, what is this guy doing? Right? Like I said, it's stranger than fiction. We go on here and we're going to see a guy who voted for Trump. He's also pissed about this. Let me show you what he said here.
Listen, I live in Minnesota. I voted for Trump. I'm a conservative. And for somebody to say like, oh, hey, stop spreading bullshit. He had a gun. It's our Second Amendment right. We have the right to bear arms. Okay. You have 8 ICE agents attacking you. You're in fear for your life? You're not going to fucking pull a gun? And then you have people defending this ICE again? It's at my front doorstep. It's at every Minnesotan's front doorstep. We're protesting by the tens of thousands. You think tens of thousands, even maybe closer to 100,000 Minnesotans are wrong? It's not about immigration anymore. They're not shooting Mexicans. They're shooting white people, black people. They're shooting everybody. They're using children to bait their parents to come out of the house and arrest them. Wake the fuck up. Martial law is like right on the doorstep. Stop defending these motherfuckers.
Well, and you know how that is. So he's not happy about this, and he's not the only one. I think this one really takes the cake. You have a Minnesota Republican gubernatorial candidate who just decided to drop out of the race over this issue. It's all over the place, ladies and gentlemen. He's now a former gubernatorial candidate. His name was Chris Meadow. I want you to hear what he said about the way the administration is handling this.
I started as a relative unknown candidate and emerged as a leading Republican contender in less than 2 months. Honestly, we've accomplished more in less than 2 months than I ever dreamed possible, and I cannot thank my friends and supporters enough for getting me here. You've been there for me, and I will forever be grateful. But today, I announced the end of my campaign. I have 2 primary reasons for this decision. Number 1, I cannot support the National Republicans' stated retribution on the citizens of our state, nor can I count myself a member of a party that would do so.
Uh-oh.
I support the originally stated goals of Immigrations and Customs Enforcement's Operation Metro Surge in locating and deporting the worst of the worst from our state. And I've seen many examples of ICE arresting non-U.S. citizens in Minnesota convicted of serious crimes, including murder, rape, and child sexual assault. No reasonable person should want these people here, and I am glad that they are gone. But Operation Metro Surge has expanded far beyond its stated focus on true public safety threats. United States citizens, particularly those of color, live in fear. United States citizens are carrying papers to prove their citizenship. That's wrong. ICE has authorized its agents to raid homes using a civil warrant that need only be signed by a Border Patrol agent. That's unconstitutional and it's wrong. Weaponizing criminal investigations against political opponents is unconstitutional, regardless of who is in power. Republicans and Democrats alike have engaged in this misconduct, and both must be held to the same standard. They need to do better. And I have read about and I have spoken to countless United States citizens who have been detained in Minnesota due to the color of their skin. I personally have spoken to several law enforcement officers, some Hispanic and some Asian, who have been pulled over by ICE on pretextual stops. Driving while Hispanic is not a crime. Either is driving while Asian.
Woo!
At the end of the day, I have to look my daughters in the eye and tell them I believe I did what was right. And I am doing that today.
Well, former Republican gubernatorial candidate in Minnesota drops out of the race because of the ICE decisions in Minnesota. Republicans are going to get killed in the midterms. And I want you to see even Piers Morgan is calling it out, ladies and gentlemen. Listen to this.
On Minneapolis, Cenk Uygur, it's been very interesting, the reaction to this second killing. In the first one, a lot of people moved to their partisan lines, and they held their partisan lines. Those lines were reinforced, doubled down, trebled down by President Trump and his administration and J.D. Vance and so on. This time, I'm seeing big cracks, particularly on the Maga side, on the Trump administration side. They realize, I think, that we've all seen the video, right? You can tell us what you want us to believe, but we've all seen the video. Nobody can watch that video and not conclude that this guy was not brandishing his weapon. He wasn't trying to shoot the ICE officers. He was legally allowed to carry his firearm, which was apparently attached to his waist. He didn't use that firearm. And now we have the, to me, utterly extraordinary hypocrisy of people who've spent the last 20 years telling me that absolutely an American has a Second Amendment right to take a gun legally to a protest or anywhere they see fit. But now, because it doesn't suit the narrative, suddenly this is a terrible thing to be doing. I don't remember that argument with Kyle Rittenhouse. So to me, as always with these things, I don't take a side, but I do look at hypocrisy when I see it.
Well, they've even lost Pierce Morgan. Like, I'm telling you, the hypocrisy knows no bounds. And as you'll see here, the polls are showing this as well. Again, not good for the Trump administration. Look at the numbers on ICE.
DHS, Kristi Noem, have been a political disaster because just take a look here. I mean, ICE's net approval rating during Trump's term. You go back to term number one. Look, it's pretty even at 0 points. You go to June 2025, right? That was when all that stuff was going on in Los Angeles. They dropped down. Look at this, minus 17 points, way in the basement. But then after Minneapolis, it's even lower, minus 27 points on the net approval rating of ICE. Of course, this all being done under Kristi Noem. So no, what's going on in Minneapolis is not popular at all. What's been going on during this second term under ICE, under the Trump administration, under Kristi Noem, has very much not been popular, and it's only been getting more and more unpopular.
Well, that's bad. That's bad. And during a midterm year.
What about DHS kind of more broadly?
Yeah, okay. So, we're going to start down low. We'll start with ICE and then we'll raise it to DHS. And again, it's just the same exact story, right? DHS is doing an excellent or good job, the Department of Homeland Security. During Trump's first term, look where it was in late 2017, right about at this point, 59%. That's pretty gosh darn good. But look at where it is now in Trump term number two. By late last year, it was down to 42%. So this is the same story that we're seeing no matter which poll question we look at.
What's interesting too, 2017, the 59%, that was during the time when, remember the kids in the cages, when everyone was like ranting about, upset about the kids that were put in the cages. That was during that time. So he had a higher approval. DHS had a higher approval rating in 2017 when the kids were in the cages than they do now. So what does that tell you?
Popularity of ICE, of DHS, has completely fallen under the second Trump term, the second Trump administration, where what we were seeing during Trump's term number one was, hey, ICE, DHS, pretty popular, certainly not unpopular, but all the actions in Minneapolis, in Los Angeles, in these major American cities have been very much rejected by the American people. It has been a political disaster for the second Trump administration.
And now, as Berman was just reading what the president was just sending out, he's now sending in Tom Homan. His borders are into Minnesota, which leads to questions of what about the leadership of the Secretary of Homeland Security, who has inserted herself very publicly to be kind of front and center in all of these operations.
Yeah, I as I said at the top, I just think there's a real reason for it. And that's because Kristi Noem, simply put, Kate, has not been popular. And everything she's done, for the most part, has not been popular. Just look at her net approval rating. In July of 2025, it was minus 11 points. It's actually gotten more unpopular now at minus 16 points. I looked at every single poll that has been conducted on Kristi Noem's popularity, Every single one, the net approval rating has been negative. ICE is negative. DHS is negative. As I said at the top, Kate, this has been an absolute political disaster for the President of the United States. It's not much of a surprise to me if he wants to push Noam to the side, Kate.
And here's the thing. It's not even that Kristi Noem, her polling is so bad because she's lying. Her polling is so bad is because she's not a good liar. It's just like she says things that are easily debunked. And that's really what it comes down to. Like, she's not the best at trying to gaslight the people. It's crazy when you think about it, right? But we've seen some similarities here as well between ICE and the IDF. This is something that I've noticed. Seems similar, right? Shoot first, block the ambulances, call them a terrorist. And you have IDF members, right, that are also ICE members. You have ICE that trains with the IDF. This is what you're seeing. Similar things that are happening here. But it's not good for the Trump administration. First, again, like I said, there was a divide with the Israel issue. That still is, that divide is still there and very real. But now you have this divide over the way that ICE has been handling the situation in Minneapolis in the MAGA movement. And this whole second, when they came out against the Second Amendment and said, well, he shouldn't have carried a gun. Oh boy, I was like, that's the ripple. That's the ripple right there. So what's happening? And it's stranger than fiction, but it's happening. Let's go to some of the comments here, ladies and gents. Eric, we can go to part 2 of Type VNC. Thank you for the super chat, M. Berg. Palestinian-owned Upscroll, now #1 on social media app on Apple after the TikTok buyout. We're going to talk about that. Thank you. James said the billionaires are just sitting back laughing. That's true. They want chaos. A kid said, Sabby, what are your thoughts for how fast the news cycle moves? We don't hear more about Palestine, war in Ukraine, Luigi, the Congo, and others. No, to hear about those issues more so now, you either got to watch independent media or you have to read independent outlets. Like Black Agenda Report talks about that stuff all the time. Al Jazeera still talks about those things, but no, they do move very fast. They get an issue, it's popular, they stay with that, and then they go next to the more popular issue. Yeah. Thank you, Kinman. Megyn Kelly, awful hypocrite, but attractive. Kinman has a crush on Megyn. Thank you, Golden Sun. Megyn Kelly is a hippo Christian. I like that word, hippo Christian. Thank you, Mark. Sab, is that a Pippi Longstocking look? Look, I couldn't get the hair right today, so I just said screw it. It was too fluffy. R. Connolly says new hair. Okay, girl. Oh, thank you. Oh, Batani says love the pigtails. Thank you. Thanks. Yeah, I had the fluffy poofy thing going on today, and I couldn't get it to unpoof, so I said screw it. Thank you. Zakay says, thank you for the super sticker. Carl said these people can't even be bothered to gaslight properly anymore. Basically. Thank you for the super chat. Zakay says, ear to thee, it's moving fast. Thank you, Measured Men. I just saw a pig fly because I agreed with Pierce Morgan on an issue. There is hope and humanity in the land. Shout out to Zakay Aspar Jonas for becoming a Sabby member. Let's give them a big whoop whoop. Yeah. And thank you for the super sticker, Nicole. Philando Castile was legally carrying. Yep, there you go. There's been many examples. And so, again, I said during this administration, I think a lot of people are going to be looking to see who's being consistent. So either you support the issue or you don't support the issue. You can't just be like, I don't know how I feel about it anymore because it's the administration that I voted for that's there. Can't be that way. Let's get that Rumble rant, please. All right, rocking and rolling. Thank you for the Rumble rant, Active Guardian. Why do you keep comparing this to the Rittenhouse incident? It's not apples and oranges. You're doing apples and platypuses. I don't think I made that much of a comparison, but what I did say is that Kyle Rittenhouse showed up with a gun and he shot somebody. And yes, they say he was defending himself. We talked about that before on the show. But the point is, if you supported Kyle Rittenhouse showing up to the protest with a gun, you should be okay with Alex showing up to a protest with a gun. That's the point. I don't know why this needs to be explained. Let's move on to the next one here, ladies and gents. This one's interesting. Again, the theme is stranger than fiction, and this one is strange. Do you remember the TPUSA donor that we spoke about recently? Her name is Lori Cardoza Moore. And she was the one that we believe sent that message to Charlie Kirk about how God is going to punish him. But like she said, God with G-D instead of spelling out the word God. Remember that whole debacle? Well, we found out something else about her. We found out something else about her because it turns out that she isn't really who she said she was. So we're going to get into her past, but I just want to show you some of the things that she has been saying. Sam Parker shared this. A lot of people are all over her case now. Is the woman who sent the threatening message to Charlie Kirk on September 9th, the be very careful, this Zyotologist lunatic, Lori Cardoza Moore, Chief Karen at Proclaiming Justice to the Nations. Watch her video and compare the message text. So this is when people started figuring it out. But listen to what she says here.
Charlie Kirk, are you out of your mind? You will never believe what I just saw. I was watching the Will Cain show on Friday, and Will Cain was interviewing Charlie Kirk with Turning Point USA. But Charlie Kirk had the audacity to say, no, we shouldn't get involved. He cited our involvement with Libya and with Gaddafi, a terrorist regime and a terrorist state.
We already did a deep dive about Libya and Gaddafi on this show. Libya was doing just fine until the U.S. came to topple their leader, killed their leader, and to take over. And now there's an open slave trade in Libya. So here she is repeating propaganda.
But he's using that as a comparison to why we shouldn't get involved with Israel in defending Israel against Iran. Charlie, what are you thinking? Ladies and gentlemen, there is a movement. Start watching these talking head shows and look at the youngers, the 30-somethings, the 40-somethings, the isolationists. They're now saying we shouldn't be getting involved in this war. Well, you know what? I don't want to be involved in Russia's war, and I don't want to be involved in Ukraine. But when it comes to Israel, I've read my Bible, and I know I better be, because in Genesis 12:3, God told Abram, I will bless those who bless you and curse him who curses you.
So she said this multiple times, right? Again, similar to that text that was sent to Charlie Kirk right here. You can see it underlined here. Genesis, bless those who bless you, curse those who curse you, whatever.
And he who ignores you, Israel, I will utterly destroy. He told the prophet Obadiah that in the last days, I think we can all agree we're living in the last days. In the last days, he will wipe out the descendants of Edom because they stood by Charlie Kirk while their brothers were held in captivity, Israel, and they did nothing. Who agrees with that philosophy? That's Bannon. That's Tucker Carlson. That's Candace Owens. And now it's Charlie Kirk.
You know what's interesting? Ever since I was a kid, I've heard we're living in the last days. And my parents said they heard that when they were kids too. Just saying. Just saying.
You know, Charlie, don't use that as an excuse. Don't use a terrorist rogue state in the Middle East as the excuse why we shouldn't stand with Israel and have Israel's back. Are you out of your mind? Don't you know your Bible, Charlie? God told the prophet Obadiah in the last days he would wipe out the descendants of Edom because they stood by while their brother Jacob, Israel, was held in captivity and they did nothing. Is that what?
So now what she tries to do, right? And we've seen this happen before, but she's a Zionist, Christian Zionist. What she's trying to do is use the text from the Bible to make Charlie Kirk feel guilty. So of course, this message was sent when he was still alive, right after he said that he doesn't agree it's a good idea for the U.S. to attack Iran or to go to war with Iran at all, which he was right about that. Like, you should... I don't know, man, but yeah, he was really right about that. But because that doesn't fit the pro-Israel narrative and it doesn't fit the Christian evangelical narrative, she comes out to attack that, right? Because the Bible told her to, supposedly. Now, we've talked before on this show about the real Israel and what that really means in the Bible compared to the modern day Israel, which the modern day Israel is not the biblical Israel, which I'm sure she knows that. But this is the role that she's paid to play. And we'll get into what that role really means in just a second.
You're going to do, Charlie? You and Tucker and Candace and Steve Bannon, are y'all just going to stand there and let Israel defend herself? Well, don't speak on my behalf. And don't speak on behalf of over 2 billion Christians who agree with me, because you guys are going to sell Israel down the pike. So, ladies and gentlemen, do me a favor. I want to hear your comments below. Please send me your thoughts. And I need for you to like and share this. And then go to the social media pages on Steve Bannon and Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens and Charlie Kirk at Turning Point USA and ask them to explain themselves. Because you know what? It's the Judeo-Christian values that made our nation great and the nation of Israel great. And if you
So first of all, one thing I would say here, you know how they continue to say Judeo-Christian, like they keep making that that a coalition, right? So it's like you can't have one without the other. It wasn't always that way. And then two, another thing I find interesting is she told people to go to their social media and basically to question them. She's saying, go there and do that. So she's giving them orders to do that, which I'm sure many have. They had a lot of people trolling them after this time, and Candace and Tucker still do till this day over this particular issue. But this woman is paid to play. And so when you see her past, I think you're going to realize this is just a role for her. That's it. Oh, and by the way, this whole thing about how dare you let Israel fend for itself. So first of all, you know, when it comes to Israel, for me, it's like the Olive Garden, but the opposite of that, the opposite of the Olive Garden. The Olive Garden says, when you're here, you're family. Okay. That's like my immediate family. And to me, when it comes to Israel, nah, when you here, you on your own. We don't have to defend you. We don't have to defend anybody else. When you are here, you are on your own. So this is not the Olive Garden. They have all the money and weapons that they needed and they wanted. We are not supposed to come in and help you. That's my take on that.
You're not willing to stand with Israel, then don't stand. But don't speak on behalf of me and millions of Christians, billions of Christians around the globe. Ladies and gentlemen, God bless you all. Thank you so much for all you do on behalf of our Jewish brethren in the state of Israel. We are watchmen. We need to stand our watch. We need to protect Israel. And we need to let our Jewish brethren know they're not standing alone.
So this is, by the way, her org here, PJTN. That's the organization that she's like a part of and all this stuff, right? Okay. Tia said, let's not insult the Olive Garden by comparing it to Israel. All right. The Olive Garden has the best salad dressing in my opinion. Well, we'll go to another one because she went on these rants multiple times. Again, she was sending people after them. Sounds like Lori Cardoza Moore used the same thing. Edom will be wiped out in times threat towards Candace that she used on Charlie. See, this is what they do. They use this whole end times like rhetoric to scare you and terrify you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, this is pure anti-Semitism. And as I've said before, Candace Owens kind of got wrapped in this with Kanye. And I don't know if she's told Kanye he needs to apologize and get his history, his facts right. But Candace needs to read up on this. She needs to understand where these people came from. There are blacks who are Jews.
Oh, so that means you better get in line. She said, because there are black people that are a lot of things. You know? I mean, does that mean you have to support said opinion, said ideology? Because there's black people that are doing that somewhere? Then she tried to use that against them. There are black people that are this too. This is the lowest of the low, guys. Pretty low.
Come from the tribe of Judah, one of 12 Jacob's tribes. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we're not giving them a pass on this. They're not going to get away with this. They don't know their history. They need to do their homework. And before they start saying that they're somebody that they're not, they need to research, because their actions are more like Edom, the Edomites, that God says he's going to wipe out in the last days because they stood by. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, the prophets foretold that in the last days, and this is in the book of Obadiah, it's in other books too in the Bible. Go back and read the book of Obadiah, because there is a verse that talks about how in the last days, God is going to wipe out the descendants of Edom because they stood by while their brother Jacob was held in captivity.
Same script, right? So yeah, it's almost like she's reading a script. Well, it turns out at one point, that's exactly what she was doing. It turns out at one point, she was reading a script. So shout out to Project Constitution exclusive. Lori Cardoza Moore, aka Lauren Bishop, former 1-900 phone sex actress in steamy commercials, an alleged 1980s Dallas stripper ? Plus her nonprofit is shady. 365,000 family payouts, mere TPUSA grift. Let's get into this video, and I'll go back to the rest of this that Project Constitution said here. It's the romance hotline.
Are you over 30 and single? You can find love and romance right here on the telephone, on the Romance Hotline. Just call this number, and all you have to do is listen. You'll hear recorded messages from exciting singles over 30 looking for love and romance.
The Romance Hotline, 1-900-909-8000.
She did the romance hotline commercials. For the younger people in the chat, because I don't think these things exist now, like on TV ads, but when I was a kid, like there are a couple of things that would happen late at night, and they would kind of wake you up. So like if you fell asleep and you fell asleep with the TV on, like 2-3 o'clock in the morning, you wake up to these romance hotline commercials. Are you lonely? Do you need someone to talk to? It's getting hot and steamy in here. Oh, yeah. Like there were those romance commercials. She was one of the romance hotline girls.
Call this number, and all you have to do is listen. You'll hear recorded messages from exciting singles over 30 looking for love and romance.
The Romance Hotline, 1-900-909-8000. $2 first minute, 45 cents additional minutes.
$2 for the first minute. Oh man.
Why not call now? All you have to do is listen.
So I went to Israel actually in 2002 because my background is not only television, movies, theater, acting, what have you, but it's also a student of history. So studying the Bible, studying history about Israel and the Middle East.
So we just got to mute it here so you can see it. Let's look at her acting history. Actress and spokesperson. Oh my God, no. Over 500 TV commercials spanning 21 years, national spots, markets. Buffalo, New York. Oh, I think we can play this part. Hold on. Let me see.
Vehicle with the right tires, the right wheels at the right price. It makes the buying experience a lot more fun, not to mention the drive home. There's no better time to buy.
Then she was all of a sudden invited to Israel, romance hotline, tire commercial actress, and then she was invited to Israel.
I made my first trip to Israel in 2003 as a guest of the Jewish Federation in Nashville, which I owe them this whole mission because that's when my eyes were opened about what really was going on in Israel. And from a biblical perspective, why Christians should care. So, yeah, it launched PJTN.
The following is Lori's work after her sponsored trip to Israel. You know what's interesting there? She said she learned about the true history of Israel when she took that trip to Israel. So that's a propaganda tour I've been telling you guys about. They brainwashing people and all that jazz. But in that other clip that you saw, she said she was always a historian and she was always, into those kind of things. So which is it? I'm willing to bet it was the latter, which was that she got propagandized when she took that trip to Israel. That's when she changed her perspective about that.
6 million men, women, and children crying out from their graves, "Do not forget us." Hello, I'm Lori Cardoza Moore, president of Proclaiming Justice to the Nations.
That's the name of the organization that she started there. So PJTN.
A nonprofit organization dedicated to educating Christians about their biblical responsibility to the Jewish people. Many do not realize that the word explicitly tells us to stand with our Jewish brethren and defend the land God calls his.
So you guys see this, right? So notice again, another nonprofit. And you need to ask yourself this question, like, how are people making all this money if they just simply have a nonprofit? And that to me hints towards the alleged misuse of funds. And that's why you're seeing more people like Wolves in Finance and others looking into their financials, because nonprofits, like anyone who has worked for a nonprofit is quick to tell you they don't make a lot of money. I have friends that have worked for nonprofits. They don't pay much. So how is it that these people that have these nonprofits, how are they so rich? What are they doing with that money? Interesting how she went from a romance hotline girl to this though, huh?
This is Lori Cardoza from Daystar TV.
Mr. Prime Minister, it is an honor to be here, sir. What would you say to those Christians in helping you fight and combat the growing threat of global anti-Semitism?
So she met with Benjamin Netanyahu face to face.
Look at how anti-Semitism has spread globally, ladies and gentlemen, because of the silence of the church.
How will you address the rise of global genocidal anti-Semitism?
Lori has been trying to sell U.S. products for decades. What is she trying to sell us now? So, long story short, ladies and gentlemen, this woman is an actress. And I think what you're seeing from her right now is also her acting. It's just another role that she's playing. Different script, different role, same goal. The internet lives on forever, doesn't it? Doesn't it, ladies and gents? Stranger than fiction. Let's get to some of the comments here, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the super chat, Mr. Warfrat. Why did it sound so hateful when she said blacks? Thank you, Measured Man. Can't nobody looking like Joe from Facts of Life tell me to read my Bible, by Lori, aka Bishop Moore. Measurement said not the 1900, the 1900. Yeah, I know. And Bridget says bought and paid for. Does she kind of look like Brit? Oh, she does kind of look like Joe from the Facts of Life. Take the good, you take the bad, take the facts of life. Facts of life. I don't know. She got, a haircut, blonde hair, but it's the same person. She's just an actress. All right, ladies and gents, if you haven't had a chance to do so, please smash the like. Thank you. And if you're new, don't forget to like, sub, and share, just like a Care Bear. Let's keep it moving and grooving. I have a good news story coming in. Bam, bam, bam. So, if you are not aware, TikTok has officially been sold to Larry Ellison. And after that takeover, there was immense censorship on TikTok, even to the point where people were getting 0 views. TikTokers that have been booming, all of a sudden their videos weren't shown to anyone. Now, one of the changes, of course, was pro-Israel. I want to bring this in here so you can see this is the new CEO of TikTok, and I want you to hear what he said about the new takeover.
Watch TikTok's new CEO admit they changed TikTok to punish Americans for criticizing Zionism and Israel.
We made a change to designate the use of the term Zionist as a proxy for a protected attribute as hate speech. So if somebody were to use Zionist, of course you can use it in the sense of you're a proud Zionist, but if you're using it in the context of degrading somebody, calling somebody a Zionist as a dirty name, then that gets designated as hate speech.
So I'm a little bit confused because either you're calling yourself a Zionist, but you don't want other people to call you a Zionist, or they can't call you a Zionist in a negative way. Again, what happened to free speech? So I'm just confused. This is confusing to me. But here we are. Make up your mind.
To be moderated against. We tripled the amount of accounts that we were banning for hateful activity. We also have, I think, over 24 Jewish organizations that are constantly feeding us intelligence and information when they spot violative trends.
Why do you think Zionists work hard to suppress Americans' free speech?
And ladies and gents, that is the new TikTok. So many of us have left TikTok. I deactivated my account. I removed the TikTok app off my phone, and I'm going to show you why that's important as well. It's not just the censorship, it's the new tracking and the new terms of agreement that you had to agree to that is causing other people to flee as well. But there's a rainbow at the end of this story. Now, Bernie Sanders is calling this out as well. He said, thanks to Trump, right-wing multi-billionaire Larry Ellison will now control the TikTok algorithm along with CBS, MTV, The Free Press, BET, CMT, Simon & Schuster, Nickelodeon, Paramount Plus, Pluto TV, and more. This is what oligarchy looks like. So, first of all, BET should be ashamed, huh? BET should be ashamed, but they're there. So everybody just pay attention to that. If you're watching these channels and all of a sudden it seems a little bit different. But Bernie leaves something out that journalist Ken Klippenstein did mention. Congress also played a role by forcing its sale in the first place. Yeah. And I remember under the Biden administration, I was complaining about that. Many were saying, like, what the hell are you doing? Don't sell TikTok, like, leave it alone. TikTok was fine the way that it was. Once the US decided to come in and say, well, we're going to own TikTok, everything went downhill. But it was pushed by Congress. Everybody remember that? And then Donald Trump came in right before he started his presidency and said, I'm going to bring TikTok back. And then he looked like the hero and people were pointing fingers at the Democrats and all that type of stuff. This was bipartisan. So you had Congress that went along with it. Now, here's the big plus. TikTok users are deleting the app with removals up 150% following the U.S. joint venture. And that's not an exaggeration. I'll tell you where we're all going. TikTok users have been deleting the app at a higher rate since the company announced that its U.S. operations would be housed in a new joint venture. I'm going to reword this. They've been leaving at a higher rate since the company announced that it was now owned by Larry Ellison, and he increased censorship and tracking information. The daily average of U.S. users deleting the TikTok app has increased nearly 150% over the past 5 days compared to the previous 3 months. That is according to market intelligence firm Sensor Tower. Some users took to social media to voice their skepticism about the new joint venture after being prompted to agree to an updated privacy policy. Yeah, and it was not good. It goes on to say here, several social media posts pointed to language in the new policy that describes the type of data TikTok may collect, including sensitive information such as your racial and ethnic origin, your sexual life or sexual orientation, status as transgender, non-binary, citizenship or immigration status, or financial information. Now, why does an app that became pretty popular because people were doing dance moves on there, why do they need that information? It's just more surveillance, just more way to keep tabs on you. So my recommendation to everyone watching, get that app off your phone. They are tracking you. So pay attention to that. The financial information part is really scary. Despite the social media uproar, the language does not appear to be new. An archived version of the policy from August 2024 includes the same provisions. These concerns appear to have weighed on sentiment around the app after the announcement of the joint venture, contributing to a spike of uninstalls over the past several days. And here is something else that TikTok was doing. They quietly expanded ad targeting and location tracking for U.S. users. Users must accept the new terms to continue using the app. Precise GPS data collection is now allowed if device location services are enabled. And on platform activity, can inform off-platform ad targeting. To limit exposure, U.S. users can disable precise location access and personalize ads in setting. Again, why do they need to know where we are? Why do they need to track you? You know, back in the day when Edward Snowden said the government was spying on the people, and of course they were using these tools not just to target their enemies, and we use enemies lightly on this show, but to watch all of you. And there were a number of people that were angry at Edward Snowden. But now we see a lot of these things are more exposed. Again, why do they need to know where you are, where you're located? Well, Gavin Newsom decided to jump into this. He said, it's time to investigate. I'm launching a review into whether TikTok is violating state law by censoring Trump critical content. He is responding to this post here from Tory that says, so the agreement for TikTok to sell its U.S. business to GOP-backed investors was finalized a few days ago. And now you can't mention Epstein. That's another thing you can't mention. Let me put this up here. They said Epstein, and it said this message may be in violation. So you can't mention Epstein. And another thing that people have been showing screenshots of is that you can't speak critically, I guess, too critically about Donald Trump and the Trump administration. So let's put all these things together. You can't criticize Zionism, can't criticize Israel, can't mention Epstein, can't criticize Donald Trump's administration. So you know what this is really all about. That's the level of censorship. However, what is notable about Gavin Newsom's comment here, he wants to launch an investigation into whether TikTok is violating state law by censoring Trump critical content, but he doesn't want to launch an investigation to see if TikTok is censoring Israel critical content. or Epstein content, or even mentioning Epstein's name? Why is it only that he wants to look at, oh, well, you can't say critical things about Trump? That's as far as Gavin Newsom will go. I'm telling you guys right now, look, come 2028, people are going to do what they want to do. But come 2028, I'm telling you right now, Gavin Newsom on this show is already dead on arrival. I'm telling you right now. So please do not come to me and say, Sabby, you need to support Gavin Newsom. I'm going to laugh at you. Because he's only willing to go so. This is who he is. That's who he is. Candace Owens picked up on it as well. Bibi Netanyahu on camera. We need to take over TikTok so we can control minds and censor content for Israel. Gavin Newsom. I will investigate TikTok to see if they are censoring content for Trump. Left and right, our politicians are cowards. And I think I responded to this somewhere where I said, well, Gavin Newsom isn't left. But the reality is that both parties are controlled by their donors, and that's who they work for. And I'm glad more people are calling that out, because in the end, that's really what it is. Here's another one that shows you can't mention Epstein. Days after the U.S. took over majority ownership of TikTok, the word Epstein has been censored. So multiple accounts are showing you can't mention that guy. I thought Nico said something here that was pretty funny about them censoring this word Zionist. Listen to this.
Okay, so I'm confused. I thought Zionists were proud to be Zionists. So if you don't feel guilty for the label that you are calling yourself, why would you then designate that word as hate speech? I mean, literally all over social media, y'all, these people refer to themselves as proud Zionists. And according to you all, it just means that Israel has a right to exist, right? So are you proud to be a Zionist? And do you want people to refer to you as a Zionist? Or is calling you a Zionist a form of hate speech and you're offended by it? Because it can't be both, my guy. You see this right here, TikTok? This is why everybody moving to upscroll. We all knew this was coming whenever that Zionist billionaire bought this shit. We knew it was coming. Y'all can't even get your story straight. Y'all don't even know if y'all like being called Zionists or not. We don't know what to post anymore. So we just gonna leave. How about that? But y'all still Zionists though. I don't care if you call it hate speech. Y'all still Zionists.
Yeah, it does not make any sense. It's like you don't want to be called a Zionist. You do want to be called a Zionist. I'm just really confused here. But at the end of the day, we moved on. We moved on to an app called Upscrolled. I'm there. You can find a bunch of people, not just me, but a lot of other people that are on there. All your faves that were on TikTok, some of the accounts that you follow on Twitter, we all moved over to Upscroll. And Upscroll, it says time to scroll differently. Shadow banned elsewhere? Not here. Upscroll is the social platform where every voice gets equal power. No shadow bans, no algorithmic games, no pay to play favoritism, just authentic connection where your content reaches the people who matter most. Join the switch everyone's making. Join Upscrolled. And Upscrolled was created by a Palestinian American. That's where we're at, folks. So if you're wondering what happened to everybody, that's where we're at. And since Larry Ellison took over TikTok, Upscrolled is on the up and up. It is now the most downloaded app. It rose that quickly because people said, hell to the no. I am out of here. Your favorite guy, Guy Christensen, he was one of the first people I saw promoting Upscrolled. He gives the news here for you.
Guys, it's happening. A Palestinian-owned social media platform called Upscrolled is #2 in the world, trending on X, Twitter, and Instagram, with hundreds of thousands of users fleeing their platforms to go to Upscrolled because it promises no censorship and no billionaires controlling you. What better way to say F you to Larry Ellison for buying TikTok than putting a Palestinian-led social media platform at #1 spot? At the #1 spot, we need to be spreading the word, representing Upscrolled, and telling everyone that we're going to Upscrolled, no matter what platform, because all these platforms are controlled by the same ring of like-minded billionaires. I'm on there. I just hit 40K. You can find me. My username is GUY. Tell everyone, tell your friends, tell the whole internet. Thank you. And free Palestine. Guys.
Yeah, man, we're going to drop the beat. And I know we haven't done it in a while, but we got to drop the beat for Upscroll. Drop the beat. Dance with me. Dance with me. Drop the beat. In the street. Woo! Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, they thought they had us. They thought they could keep us down, but we have other options. And go on over there. Like when I signed up the other day, it was a lot of traffic coming in at once. So it took a minute for me to like refresh and things like that. But if you use TikTok and you use Twitter, it's similar to that type of platform, but that's where all of us went. So if you use TikTok a lot and you're wondering like, where did all these people go? What happened to them? We left. I removed it from my phone. I deleted my account. And again, you'll see it here. Suppressed News said, breaking, Upscrolled is currently the #1 social networking app in the US on Apple charts. Yeah. It is currently #4 on Apple's top downloaded Apple chart. Users are abandoning TikTok and migrating from other social media apps. Again, Upscrolled in the house. Yeah, man. So come on over there and you'll see me and Nico and a bunch of your faves over there, ladies and gent. We don't need no TikTok. You don't need no TikTok. You can see people do dance moves on Upscrolled. People do dances on YouTube Shorts too. Like actually, now I think about it. So it's like, you don't need no tickety-tock. All right. Cloudness said, just got it. Yay! That's what I'm saying. They weren't expecting that. They were not expecting. They said, well, everybody loves TikTok. They're not going anywhere. Surprise. Surprise. Palestinian Australian, I meant to say. But yeah, he started it because he lost, I think, over 50 of his family members. So yeah, after that is like, no, something has to change. Stranger than fiction, but it happened. Let's go to some of the comments. Eric, we can go to part 3. All right. Thank you, Nicole. Robert Johnson sold BET in 2000 to 2001. You know, we need to have a conversation about this at some point. Like when people sell their companies and who they choose to sell them to. Ronnie said, thank you, Sabby. Just another member of the Uniparty, War Party, Gavin Newsom. Thank you, Nurse Kate. I've been a VA nurse for 19 years. Thank you for honoring Nurse Pretty Sabby. Thank you. And thank you for your service. Yes, JB said the creator is Palestinian Australian. Yeah, thank you. I think I said Palestinian American. Brandy said, I joined earlier. What Democracy said, just followed Sabby. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Upscrolled. And Elaine said, started on Upscrolled yesterday. It's good. It is pretty good. And it's easy to use, I found. I was a little nervous at first. I was like, oh boy, is this going to be easy to use or what? But here we are. Yeah. I want to show something to you guys before we get to the next stories really quick here as well. Can we just give it up for Jim Jones? Because Jim Jones introduced me to something that I was not aware existed and would have been very helpful when I was shoveling snow today and yesterday and the night before that. My arms feel like they just want to fall off. My arms are so sore. Like, I kid you not. So can we just give a shout out to Jim Jones? My mixtape shared this on X. Jim Jones says buying an electric shovel was the best $200 he spent in a minute after New York got hit with 12 inches of snow. Watch this, guys.
I ain't gonna front this electric shovel. Crazy. This shit's so fire. Why the fuck they ain't had these shits in 86? Went to the guy in Lowe's. Told me it wasn't no more shovels. We got one electric shovel left. Sometimes it's you. Sometimes it's you, my brother. Thank you. God damn.
Hey, thank you for letting us know. Jim Jones, that is ballin' Jim Jones, Mr. We Fly High, no lie. You know this ballin'. I used to love that song back in the day. I have it on a mixed CD somewhere. You guys remember when people used to burn CDs? Yeah, so I have it on one of my, I still have my CDs, which is funny. But I have it on a burned CD, that Ballin' song. It always got me pumped up, like Ballin'. Oh man. Okay. Cloudness said salute bird gangs be up. Yeah, like I want an electric shovel. That was so, I'm like, oh my God. Guys, we got so much snow. Like we got so much snow. There's nowhere else to put the snow. Like I've just been shoveling and shoveling and shoveling. I finally was able to shovel my car out today, and that's the worst of the worst, just shoveling out the car. But I'm good on snow. Good on snow. All righty. Okie dokie. Let's get to the next story, shall we? Yeah. Okay. Many of you have been asking me to check this out, and I finally got a chance to see it. And so I have a couple of things to say. This whole controversy, blah, blah, blah. This whole controversy here of this IRS letter that allegedly was sent to Erica Kirk and Donald Trump's possible involvement. You know, I've seen some things in my day, but this one is stranger than fiction. I kid you not. Let's go ahead and bring this in. I finally got a chance to sit down and go through this. It starts out here with wolves and finance. Let me go back just a little bit here because I want people to see this as we break this down. This is like crazy.
I'm not going to let it bother me. He's allowed to have his own opinion. What he's not allowed to do is argue with the facts. Robert Barnes went on a podcast called Paramount Tactical, and they discussed a letter that was allegedly sent from the IRS to Turning Point.
All right, so that is just kind of the tip of the iceberg as far as the allegations. I know that Wolves and Finances have kind of brought to the fore against TPUSA. And Robert, I know I actually got some of the documents, the letter from the IRS to Erica Kirk and TPUSA that talks about what their situation is as regards to the IRS.
This letter has been floating around and reported on by mainstream news outlets like CBS. Except the letter itself has never been shown until Paramount Tactical's podcast. In fact, I'm guessing he was not supposed to show this to his audience because it is quite shocking. It is a 2-page letter on Department of the Treasury letterhead. It says it is responding to a request from Erica Kirk.
Okay. So the first thing I noticed when I saw this letter, this was very weird to me. It's just like request for return information of. This is in response to your letter of December 3rd, in which you requested certain return information of the 4 tax-exempt entities listed above for which you are chairman, CEO, or president. In particular, you requested the following information: whether the returns filed by these entities are being examined or subject to any other investigation by the IRS, and if so, a description of the nature of any such activity. And we'll go to the other ones as well. One of the things that kind of stood out to me was this letter. I found it strange, and this is not to say it's not real, but I found it strange that the letterhead, it's green. Now, I said to myself, like, maybe that is just light reflecting on it, or maybe it was the way like the image was positioned. I don't know. But the letterhead at the top looks green. And I have never seen documentation from the IRS where the letterhead is green. It's always been black when I've received it. Now, again, this is not to say, I gotta say this. This is not to say that it's not real. I just found that strange because I'm not used to seeing that type of letterhead from the IRS. But let's go on.
It says, 1, there is no IRS investigation currently underway on Turning Point. 2, all 4 990 forms were filed by May 15th, 2025. 3, the next year's forms will be filed by May 15th, 2026. The letter is signed by Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. Paramount Tactical is presenting this letter as some kind of evidence that there is no fraud at Turning Point. That is ridiculous for a number of reasons. We all know this because all of us deal with the IRS.
And that's what I'm used to seeing. Let me just bring this back for just a second. If I can get it like just right there. I'm sorry, I have to go back here to get it. Sorry.
The letter is signed by Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. Paramount Tactical is presenting this letter as some kind of evidence that there is no fraud at Turning Point. That is ridiculous for a number of reasons. We all know this because all of us deal with the IRS.
Right here. So that's what I have seen. Like when the IRS, especially like if you have to do like a payment plan or something like that. I mean, you guys know how these things go. You file taxes, hopefully. But I'm used to seeing it. It's black. It's black and white. I've never seen this green, green letterhead. At least like I've never seen that. So I found that to be kind of weird. But it is what it is.
We all know this is not normal behavior. Have any of you ever received a letter from the IRS saying, just letting you know, we're not doing an investigation on you? No, of course you have not, because the IRS does not do this. And it's not coming from the IRS. The letter is signed by the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent. To me, this looks more like a political favor to Donald Trump's personal friends than a legitimate IRS communication.
That's the other thing. Thank you for this. Measured Man says, Sabby, it has been sent off for a watermark. All letters have watermark. Yeah, that was another thing that was weird to me when he said it was signed by Scott Bessent. That's weird. It's just like, it just doesn't look like a document that came from the IRS. So what the hell is going on here? Let's go on more.
Second, the wording in this letter does not mean anything. Just because the IRS is not investigating does not mean there is no fraud going on. This does not mean that donors cannot sue Turning Point to get their money back. This does not mean that state attorney generals cannot file criminal charges against Turning Point executives. This letter does not disprove my concerns about their finances. And what is this? What is this? At the top of the page, someone has crossed out Mrs. Kirk and wrote in Erica. It looks like
that is sloppy. Again, anybody who is watching, if you ever received written communication from the IRS, what is this? It's like the Temu version of the IRS. Like, I don't know. It's dollar store IRS. When would the IRS do this? When would they just cross out your name and then just write Erica? I was thinking. Okay.
Someone is proofreading Scott Bessent's letter. Who could that be? I have reviewed so many White House documents, and in my opinion, that handwriting looks like it was written by Donald Trump. If you compare it to other samples of his writing, he does a consistent method where he writes a name dash, name dash, name dash. The K is very much like this K. The E is written the same way as this W. This handwriting looks like it belongs to Donald Trump.
So is it possible that Donald Trump did this as a favor for Erica Kirk? I mean, guys, this isn't even professional. Like what? And hey, just to let you know, we're not investigating you. What? I don't. So much corruption, you guys.
This letter does not look like it came from the IRS. It looks like it came from the President of the United States. Do you understand what this means? This is the only document the Democrats need to impeach President Trump. This looks like the president's handwriting on official letterhead of him interfering in an IRS investigation of his personal friends.
And there are other reasons that they could use against him to try to impeach him, but I'm pretty sure this one also doesn't help his case. I swear to God, it's stranger than fiction.
Let me remind you of Richard Nixon. Nixon faced impeachment charges for interfering with the FBI investigation into the Watergate scandal. The main evidence was secret tape recordings of conversations in the Oval Office. Donald Trump is doing the same thing with the IRS investigation, but this time we have what looks like his handwriting on official letterhead. It looks like the White House is now part of the cover-up at Turning Point.
And now you know things are worse, even worse than we probably thought that they were, right? Because let's think about this for a second. You know, Donald Trump has been known for corruption for quite some time, going far back before he was president of the United States. One of his mentors was a guy named Roy Cohen, who was essentially attached to the mob. And what you have to remember is that during the construction era back in the 70s in New York City, a lot of these people that worked in construction and real estate during that time had ties to the mob. The mob had direct link to construction and real estate during that time. This is also why, and I've pointed this out before, this is also why I believe Chuck Schumer doesn't go as hard at Donald Trump as he should, because they go way back. They're old New York dudes. They're old New York guys. Trump probably got some dirt on him, and he probably got some dirt on Trump. I think that's why he don't go that far back. But the corruption has always been there. So honestly, if Donald Trump did do that, it wouldn't surprise me. What is funny is just how sloppy it is. Like, you couldn't even take the time to just rewrite the letter. You scratched out the name and wrote Erica.
Let me give some free accounting advice to Donald Trump. You get this one for free, Donald. Stop writing letters like this. Why isn't he distancing himself from this scandal? I highly doubt that Donald Trump was aware of what Tyler Boyer was doing behind the scenes. But now with this letter, Donald Trump looks like he's getting involved. And I'm saying this as someone who likes Donald Trump, and this letter deeply bothers me. People have a right to be upset about this. Turning Point has been raising millions of dollars from donations. Most people don't know what has been happening with the donations. I received a message from someone named Margaret. Like many other people, she donated money to Turning Point USA because she was moved by Charlie Kirk's death. She was told if she gave a donation that she would receive a hat as part of their fundraising effort. Here's the message. Thank you for your contribution to Turning Point USA with the official Turning Point email address. And it says, shipping of your hat could take up to 10 to 12 weeks. She donated on September 16th.
10 to 12 weeks. Let's go back to that for just a second because
USA because she was moved by Charlie Kirk's death. She was told if she gave a donation that she would receive a hat as part of their fundraising effort. Here's the message. Thank you for your contribution to Turning Point USA with the official Turning Point email address. And it says, shipping of your hat could take up to 10 to 12 weeks.
So, ladies and gentlemen, 10 to 12 weeks is a long time for a company. Like, you're right here in the United States. And it sounds like this customer was here also in the United States. Guys, it doesn't take me 10 to 12 weeks to get a shirt from Shein. It doesn't take me 10 to 12 weeks to get a shirt from Temu. And they're abroad. So why does it take 10 to 12 weeks to get a hat from Turning Point USA? Doesn't that sound ridiculous to you guys? Very bizarre.
She donated on September 16th. 12 weeks would have been the second week in December. Margaret has never received a hat. Instead, she received this card with a rubber bracelet.
So where did the money go? This is where we go. Like, where'd the money go? A card and a rubber where's the hat? I can't. Like, this is so bad. This is so bad. And another thing, the nonprofit status, and this is something that we have to dive into as well. Technically, if you're a nonprofit, and I believe it's the 501c3, you're not supposed to give endorsements, correct? Because from what I understand, if you're a nonprofit, you're not really supposed to give any type of political. I'm a little bit confused because Erica did come out and endorse JD Vance. But are you supposed to be doing that? And if that's the case, how has Turning Point USA been able to do that all this time? I just feel like nonprofit doesn't mean as much as we thought it used to. Like, I feel like nonprofit doesn't mean as much anymore. That's just kind of how I feel. Let's go on more here.
They are sending bracelets to people instead of the hat they promised. And this is not an isolated incident. Here is a Facebook post. Made a $25 donation to TPUSA back in September that was supposed to come with a 47 hat free for making the donation. Never got hat. Tried texting them and calling them several times and have not gotten response. Did get one response from someone named Anika, who said she had no record of the transaction. Have sent them copies of my receipt with no response. Called and left my name and contact info on their voicemail because they never answer the phone and they don't even call you back. Loved Charlie Kirk and watched him religiously, but this has totally disappointed me.
Where's all this money going, though? Like, they're taking people's money and they're supposed to get a hat, but they're not getting a hat. So they're just asking for donations and getting donations from people. FM said, where's my hat? Yeah, like, they're getting donations from people, but they're not even giving them what they were promised to give. Isn't that fraud? Allegedly? I don't understand this. Poorly run. Poorly run.
I'll call my bank and see if I can get reimbursed for the donation. And the replies are full of comments saying the same thing. All I got was a bracelet. We got a bracelet. No hat as promised. Got a cheap rubber band bracelet and no hat. That's a big way to turn people away. Just make false promises. Same thing happened to my husband. No hat. Gave a donation back in September. And it goes on and on and on. People need to realize what Turning Point has been doing to get donations since Charlie Kirk's death. They are lying to people to get their money and then sending them rubber bracelets.
By the way, guys, those rubber bracelets are cheap. I know, because I used to like do this thing like with the Girl Scouts and all that type of stuff. Like, we used to, like, you know how it is, you know, you sell the cookies and I used to have to sell these candy bars and all this type of stuff. But anyway, those rubber bracelets are really cheap. That's why it's one of the things that people are more willing, organizations are more willing to give out freely, because it doesn't cost much. And they're not $25. So it is kind of messed up that people didn't get a hat. Guys, this is stealing. And I just don't understand. Does any of this sound Christian-like to any of you? Does any of this sound like it's a moral thing to do? Not to mention, I still haven't seen it. You guys let me know if you have. I still haven't seen Erica Kirk answer for the fact that she has that pastor on her Make Heaven Crowded tour. And this guy right now is currently under investigation for trafficking. And I just feel like all the people who are attending these events are just like, okay, whatever, I don't care. The hell is wrong with people? I feel like that's the idolism. Ay, ay, ay.
Let's look at the big picture. When someone gives money to Turning Point USA, what do they think they are giving money to? Most people think they're giving money to campus events, like what Charlie Kirk did. He would go to college campuses and answer questions. This is such a good nonprofit idea. Everyone supports that idea. Everyone knows that there is a major problem in the United States with college campuses. We have professors teaching communism and woke ideas in the classroom. How do we fix this? One way is what Charlie Kirk was doing. He was creating spaces on college campuses where students could talk about capitalism and free markets.
Well, wolves in finance, they're not really teaching communism. That's not actual communism for the most part. I need to have a conversation with this guy because I need to explain to people the difference between communism, socialism, and what they actually think is left. Like Gavin Newsom, for example, is not left. And I think people make these terms sound more radical than they actually are. So I need to have a conversation with him about that. But the point that is made here is that something is funny with the money, which I think many of us have been calling out. It just does not make any sense. And I'm hoping that more people will speak up. Like if they gave money, they donated money to Turning Point USA, and they were expected to get a hat. I'm hoping more people are willing to speak up about that because that money went somewhere, and those rubber bracelets don't cost $25. Two, a lot of times they buy these things wholesale, so they get them really cheaply. And then two, the IRS thing to me is just really shady. That letter and how sloppy it was and so unprofessional. Like, I feel like we live in a cartoon. Like, I feel like I feel like these things like are not supposed to happen, but they are happening. That's why I say it's like stranger than fiction. It's almost like everything that you see happening right now with Turning Point USA, the money and the text messages, all these things that are being revealed. I honestly feel like this could be an episode of a show, but it's real life. Like it's not even fake. That's the funny part about it. But I also feel as though we have a problem if it is true that Donald Trump intervened there, because what the hell is the president of the United States doing intervening with IRS affairs for a nonprofit organization? Nah, this is straight up mafia style, if that's the case. That's a lot of corruption. And Donald Trump has years of dealing with it. It didn't come out of nowhere. Crazy things, ladies and gentlemen. Crazy things. Let's go to some of the comments here. Thank you. Thank you for the super chat, Luis Brooks. Just followed you, JB and Nick on Upscrolled. F. Ellison. Thank you. Thank you. Upscrolled is base. Measured Man said, Sabs, we have people that spoke with Zach. If you want, we'll come to your show, and he has attorneys supporting him. Okay, I would support that. Just email me, let me know. Thank you, Kazi. Wonder if the rush to pass the hate speech law was due to this anticipated reaction to TikTok. Australians do not have the freedom to criticize Zionism or Palestine genocide. Australian-based app puts Oz residents at risk. Interesting. That's a good point. And thank you for this logically dashing. Liking the pigtail Sabby. See you on Upscrolled. Thank you. All right. I hope you are using the same name for Upscrolled. Hopefully that way it's easier for me to let me know. Text me, let me know. Measurement says Sabs sent you Erica's conference call after Charlie's death and they quit. Okay, I'll have to check my emails. And thank you for this one as well. They have not responded. Zach sent certified letter to TPUSA and POTUS and IRS department. They signed for them on January 25th, waiting on response. Interesting. All right, ladies and gents, we do have one more story for you, and we are going to do call in tonight after the show. So you can call in, let me know how you feel about these news stories and anything that's on your mind. I love the call in portion. We take it off of YouTube so you can speak freely, if you know what I mean. But let's go ahead and get into the next story here. If you haven't had a chance to do so, please do me a solid and smash that like button. And if you're new, don't forget to like, sub, and share, just like a Care Bear. Please answer that poll question about why you think Kanye West is making this apology. So let's go ahead and get into the story here. So Kanye West took out a full-page ad in the Wall Street Journal to apologize. He is apologizing to Black people and he's apologizing to Jewish people. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and say this. I don't think Kanye West wrote this letter. We're going to read it. We're going to go through it. I don't think he wrote it. Celebrities have publicists. Maybe a publicist wrote it and said, this is what we're going with. But I just find it kind of strange considering it was just a couple of months ago that he released that song, Hail Hitler. And now when we go through this letter, you're going to see there's this sudden, all of a sudden, I apologize for this and I was wrong and I did all these things wrong. It just doesn't sound like something that he wrote. So let's go ahead and get into it, ladies and gents. The Guardian here. Kanye West takes out a full-page ad apologizing for anti-Semitic behavior and denying he is a Nazi. Rapper now known as Ye apologizes to his family and to the Black community and said he loves Jews, blaming his bipolar disorder for his poor judgment and reckless behavior. Now, remember, Kanye West said that the doctors lied and that he is not bipolar. Does everybody remember that? Kanye West said that doctors wanted him to take prescription medication. It's like they wanted to numb him, he discussed. And now all of a sudden, he's saying that he does have bipolar. So it makes me wonder, is he under the influence of that type of medication or something else? Let's go a little bit more here, ladies and gents. I'm sorry. I'm old school. It's pronounced yay. I'm so sorry, JD. I'm so sorry. So let's go on more here because we do have the actual letter. And I just want to read the letter for you. I don't want to paraphrase, so you can hear it all right here. Ye's letter in full. 25 years ago, I was in a car accident that broke my jaw and caused injury to the right frontal lobe of my brain. At the time, the focus was on the visible damage, the fracture, the swelling, and the immediate physical trauma. The deeper injury, the one inside my skull, went unnoticed. So this was discussed during his first album. The song was called The Wire. Remember Through the Wire, where he was rapping, but his jaw was wired shut. And he talked about like that accident and stuff like that. So we're talking about, a long time ago. Comprehensive scans were not done. Neurological exams were limited, and the possibility of a frontal lobe injury was never raised. It wasn't properly diagnosed until 2023. That medical oversight caused serious damage to my mental health and led to my bipolar type 1 diagnosis. Okay, so if it was properly diagnosed in 2023, I don't remember hearing about that in 2023. Not that we have to, but like I said, he released the song Hail Hitler just a couple of months ago. We're now in 2026. Also, the bipolar diagnosis, the first time I heard about it was definitely way before 2023. But let's go on here. Scarlett says traumatic brain injury might explain the bipolar disorder. It's true. Let's go on a little bit more here. Bipolar disorder comes with its own defense system, denial. When you're manic, you don't think you're sick. You think everyone else is overreacting. You feel like you're seeing the world more clearly than ever, when in reality, you're losing your grip entirely. Once people label you as crazy, you feel as if you cannot contribute anything meaningful to the world. It's easy for people to joke and laugh it off when, in fact, this is a very serious, debilitating disease you can die from. According to the WHO and Cambridge University, people with bipolar disorder have a life expectancy that is shortened by 10 to 15 years on average, and 2 to 3 times higher all-cause mortality rate than the general population. This is on par with severe heart disease, type 1 diabetes, HIV, and cancer, all lethal and fatal if left untreated. So, do you guys know anybody that has bipolar? Because I know people that have been diagnosed with bipolar. So I'm curious to hear what they think about this. Let's go on more here. The scariest thing about this disorder is how persuasive it is when it tells you you don't need help. It makes you blind, but convinced you have insight. You feel powerful, certain, unstoppable. I lost touch with reality. Things got worse the longer I ignored the problem. I said and did things I deeply regret. Some of the people I love the most, I treated the worst. You endured fear, confusion, humiliation, and the exhaustion of trying to have someone who was at times unrecognizable. Looking back, I became detached from my true self. In that fractured state, I gravitated toward the most destructive symbol I could find, the swastika, and even sold t-shirts bearing it. One of the difficult aspects of having bipolar type 1 are the disconnected moments, many of which I still cannot recall, that led to poor judgment and reckless behavior that oftentimes feels like an out-of-body experience. I regret, whoopsie, lost my place. I regret and am deeply mortified by my actions in that state and am committed to accountability, treatment, and meaningful change. It does not excuse what I did, though. I am not a Nazi or an anti-Semite. I love Jewish people. We'll continue on here in just a second. I have a very hard time believing that he wrote this letter. And also, it's kind of weird that he hasn't come forward publicly to make this statement. It was kind of weird. Like, he took out a full page ad in the Washington Post. Oh, hold on. My phone just died. Typical. He took out an ad, a full page ad in the Washington Post to make this announcement. I remember a Kanye West that said, a lot of things like publicly, and maybe he just didn't want to say it on camera. I don't know, but I just don't feel like he wrote this. Let's continue on a little bit more here. To the Black community, which held me down through all the highs and lows and the darkest of times. The Black community is unquestionably the foundation of who I am. I am so sorry to have let you down. I love us. In early 2025, I fell into a 4-month-long manic episode of psychotic, paranoid, and impulsive behavior that destroyed my life. As the situation became increasingly unstable, there were times I didn't want to be here anymore. Having bipolar disorder is a notable state of constant mental illness. When you go into manic mode, a manic episode, you are ill at that point. When you are not in an episode, you are completely normal. And that's when the wreckage from the illness hits the hardest. Hitting rock bottom a few months ago, my wife encouraged me to finally get help. Okay. But let me, what's it, Tidro? Sabs, I got a TBI when I was 33. I actually died and woke back up 3 months because I had a skull fracture when I walked my head in my friend's basement, 13 steps to the base. Holy shit. I'm so sorry, Tidro. I hope you are okay. Good grief. Yikes. Jimmy said it does not sound like him. Yeah, it just, I don't know. Like I said, you guys, celebrities have publicists that can write things for them. It goes on to say, I have found comfort in Reddit forums of all places. That's interesting. Different people speak of being in manic or depressive episodes of a similar nature. I read their stories and realized that I was not alone. It's not just me who ruins their entire life once a year, despite taking meds every day and being told by the so-called best doctors in the world that I am not bipolar, but merely experiencing symptoms of autism. My words as a leader in my community have global impact and influence. In my mania, I lost complete sight of that. As I find my new baseline and new center through an effective regime of medication, therapy, exercise, and clean living, I have newfound much needed clarity. I am pouring my energy into positive, meaningful art, music, clothing, design, and other new ideas to help the world. I'm not asking for sympathy or a free pass, though I aspire to earn your forgiveness. I write today simply to ask for your patience and understanding as I find my way home. With love, Yay. So that's the letter. And I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. Like I said, I don't think that he wrote it. I think his publicist or someone probably wrote it for him. How do you feel about it? Do you feel that he's genuinely sorry for what he's done? Do you feel like it's an honesty thing? Do you feel like it's a financial thing? Do you feel like it's a family situation? Like, do you feel like he's taken not just the financial hit, which we know about, but also, of course, the hit with his family, right? Do you think that could have something to do with it? I also wonder, just the stories that I've heard from Hollywood that these people a lot of times are not in their right mind when statements come out. And that's why I also ask, was he clear and sober-minded if he did write this when he wrote it? Or was he under the influence of something? I mean, we heard the stories for years, whether it was from Corey Haim. Remember the two Corys, Corey Haim and Corey Feldman? We heard these stories for years where people in Hollywood would say that, like, they would pretty much, these handlers would pretty much tell you, this is what you're going to do. This is what you're going to be. And we're going to put this out. And so I just wonder, and I wonder what would have made the shift so quickly. Now, he did respond to the letter. Kanye West says, apology letter isn't about reviving my commerciality. These remorseful feelings were so heavy on my heart. So that's the response. But I just have a hard time believing it because, like I said, it was just a couple of months ago he made the Hail Hitler song. And I want to take you back to something else because there's a number of things. This is where the Candace Owens part comes in. This was fairly recent on Candace Owens' podcast. I want you to hear what she said Kanye said to her. This was fairly recent.
Yesterday, and which got picked up, was to create a kill switch, right? To realize that Kanye was kind of right. Never too late to say that Kanye was right. Kanye said that in order to be free, you had to violate these contracts. You had to recognize that your voice is being controlled. And Kanye did just that. It was really an act of bravery to free himself. But I have no doubt that the same people that were torturing Kanye, the same people that were torturing Charlie Kirk, Kanye died today, would be the first to eulogize him. I feel that. I do. I feel that. And I think it's important to share that information, as Kanye sent me all the messages of people who were threatening him. I have them all, to information share with Max Blumenthal, with people, people all over the place, to send a package and say, if anything happens to me and it looks suspicious, release it all. It's not even about having an opposite and equal reaction. I want it to be an unequal reaction. I want it to be a mistake, because it catalyzes people waking up and learning exactly how this matrix works. And Alex Jones brought this up on his show, my kills.
So this was fairly recent. on her show where she said that Kanye gave her information, gave her, I guess, whatever messages or documents, gave them to her for her to release if the time permits. And now this letter comes out. There's something else too that I want to get into. Let me bring this in here. I remember this was going around on Twitter about 2 months ago, where he apologized to a rabbi in person, and people were like, "What's going on with Kanye?" So let me show you this. 2 months ago.
I'm blessed to be able to sit here with you today and just take accountability. I was dealing with some various issues, dealing with bipolar also. So it would take the ideas I had and have me take them to an extreme where I would forget about the protection of the people around me and myself. So I wanted to come and take accountability. Sometimes people aren't that knowledgeable about the bipolar and the cause or what causes it and the way you act when you have this disease. So it's like if you left the house and you left your kid at the house and your kid went and messed up the kitchen and messed up the garage, messed up the living room. Now when you get back, it's your responsibility because that's your child. And that's the way I look at it. It's like I gotta go clean up the kitchen, I gotta clean up the living room, I gotta clean up the garage. Yeah, and it's a big deal for me as a man to come and take accountability for all the things that I've said. And I really just appreciate you embracing me with open arms and allowing me to make amends. And this is the beginning and the first steps and the first brick by brick to build back the strong walls.
ישראל שהיהדות, נורא ביסדת, the Judaism, היא נתנה לעולם את התשובה. The Judaism brought to the world a way for someone when he regret about something that he has done wrong. היהדות חיה על התשובה. And the Jews live on this way of if someone did something wrong, he can regret and fix it. And the rabbi is hugging you and hugging everybody. And God willing, and from now on, strong things and good things, and only good. You are a very good man.
Amen. That's the best. Fair.
That does not even seem like the same person. And I do understand, again, I do have friends that do have that illness. And I know there are periods of where they're manic and periods where they're not. But he seems like a different person. And that brings me back to this. Candace brought this up also on her show before about the time when Charlie Kirk and her went to go meet with Kanye. And we got to go back to this because I do have questions. And this is not to say that Kanye West can't change. People can change. I just find it kind of weird that like he literally came out with that song a couple of months ago. It's not like it's been 5 years or anything like that. And like all of a sudden it's just, I don't know. And part of me feels like he's sedated. Like part of me wonders if somebody else is in charge of him at this point in time. So listen to what she said here when they went to meet with Kanye.
I believe, and I'm saying this retrospectively, that from that moment onward, Charlie and I were assigned handlers. Okay, this is an expression that Kanye used to say, have a handler. I thought that he was just saying that. I thought that he was referring to just Hollywood. I now very much believe that I have had handlers. since 2018. And that things were done intentionally to pull me and Charlie apart. Now, I'm going to tell you how I remember it in no particular order, okay? I tweeted back at Kanye and I said, please take a meeting with us. And before I could hear directly from Kanye's people, I heard from David Horowitz of the Freedom Center. He's the one that first invited me when I was going viral on YouTube to speak at his conference. You should also know that he is the father to Andreessen Horowitz, the one that Bibi Netanyahu is insisting should, or the stepfather to. He wants Andreessen Horowitz to be a part of this group that buys TikTok because, and this is relevant, they think it's important for warfare, psychological warfare in the future. It's relevant.
So that goes to show you the TikTok thing is all over the place, right? They all wanted TikTok.
He was very nice in his message to me, said, oh, my son knows Kanye, and I would like to facilitate that meeting. Suddenly they get Eric Weinstein involved, and he reaches out and he pretends that he wants to be a friend to me. He's a bad person. I can tell you that right away. And I learned that very quickly. But at the time, Charlie and I, we were pro-Israel. That's, I think, kind of relevant. And we were just so amazed by the tweet that we thought all of these people, like this was just our moment, as in they really did just want to help. Another player in this was Rick Rubin. Yeah, the big music industry, Rick Rubin, also got into the mix and wanted to facilitate certain meetings. I took it again as a sign of help. On the Turning Point USA side, Tyler Boyer, who I could do a whole episode on. It's actually, he's more so relevant that I can't fit him into just one episode. He was with the only person that was with Charlie before. He introduced him to every person that Charlie knows. He starts hiring a bunch of people, telling Charlie that we need to hire bigger and more professional money raisers, PR people like Andrew Colvett, you name it. And it feels like at every moment there were forces that were trying to tell us this is not allowed to happen. Kanye's handlers are telling him, Kanye's got a team of people telling him he's not allowed to be involved in politics. And
so this is why I'm asking the question now, who is all involved and behind this letter that Kanye West released? It just makes you wonder.
He's getting angrier and he's getting angrier about that. This is in the time of Kim Kardashian and Kanye. She wanted nothing to do with it, okay? And I've been to their house, and political friends are telling Charlie and I, don't get involved with Kanye because he's crazy. You guys are on a trajectory. Don't speak to Kanye. It's going to backfire in your face. And I'm like, no, we dreamed this. We want him to be a part of Blexit. Like, this is exactly what we wanted. At the exact same time, I felt, and you have heard the story very many times, Charlie has told it, I have told it, out of nowhere, I got this spiritual pull that I needed to go to the UK. Charlie and I had no business in the UK at all. There was no reason for us to go to the UK. There was nothing happening in the UK. I had the messages. I'm like, Charlie, we should go to the UK. I don't know why. I'm getting the vibe. We need to go to the UK. We need to go to the UK. We need to go to the UK. Like, we got to go to London. And we did in the future. But first, dealing with this sort of pressure cooker that kept happening between Kanye, me, Charlie, it was in October, after Kanye had helped me to start designing the logo for Blexit, that Kanye's pressure cooker got too hot. And basically, they told him that he would lose everything, his marriage, this, that, if he didn't abstain from politics after he notoriously went to the White House in the Maga hat. And he needed to distance from us and, of course, Blexit. And he cracked.
And for those who are not aware, Miss Kim Kardashian has been very much called out on social media in the past couple of weeks because she is very, very pro-Israel. So let's look back on all these things. Like, no, Kanye's not with Kim anymore, but they were married and they had kids together. So it just makes me wonder if not just because Kim been with everybody, okay? So let's not be like, oh, Kim loved him, da-da-da. Well, we don't know. Kim looked out for Kim, okay? But it makes me wonder if her issue with Kanye was not just his behavior, but also because his behavior was hurting her business. his behavior was bad for business, because she went over there to, people were like, why are you trying to go to Israel to launch Skims over there? Why are you trying, as another business that she started, to launch Skims over there or whatever during this time? You should be, staying away from Israel right now, yada, yada. But she is very much pro-Israel and pro-money. So at the end of the day, even if Kanye wasn't behaving the way that he was behaving, but let's say he came out in support of Gaza, it still would have been a problem for Kim. Would have been a problem for her businesses. So, I don't know. So it makes you wonder. Back in the day, I used to watch Keeping Up with the Kardashians, and I'm just here to tell you, when you learn about the family, like their businesses and everything that they do and stuff like that, they do what makes them money. And when they feel as though you're not useful for them making money anymore, you gots to go.
You guys remember this headline? I'm taking you back 2018. Kanye West distances himself from Brexit and Trump. He says, I've been used to spread messages. Kanye never wrote this statement. One of his handlers did, but he said, my eyes are now wide open, and I now realize that I've been used to spread messages that I don't believe in. I am distancing myself from politics and completely focusing on being creative. Now, that was not the most honest interpretation of things, and I reflect on it, and I'm so grateful that I called Mike Cernovich, and I said, like, why is Kanye doing this? Why is he saying this? I have pictures of him standing over the guy, directing him on what he thought was cool with the logo. Like, should I drop them? And Cernovich gave me really sound advice and said, don't. You have no idea what he's going through. And I'm grateful to Cernovich for that, because I now know what Kanye was going through and what that pressure is like. And when they come for your family and come for everything, and it's like, all you have to do is disavow this or disavow that, and everything will go back to normal. So yeah, Kanye.
Yeah. And Scott Ritter made that same comment on this show recently. The offers that were made to him, all you got to do is just say this, this, and that. And that is why I don't believe Kanye West wrote that letter. I don't know if Candace has talked about this at all or not, but it would be interesting to hear what she has to say about all this. I just don't believe he wrote that letter. And it sounds like he said yes, where like Scott Ritter said no. Like Scott Ritter said, they offered Scott Ritter millions of dollars. All you got to do is come back, be on our side with the good old boys, support NATO, and everything will go away. We'll leave you and your family alone. And Scott said, no, I can't lie to the American people. I know too much. I'm going to tell people the truth. And that's why Scott Ritter goes through all this hell. And it sounds like to me, based on that letter that I just read to you, it sounds like Kanye made a decision not to continue to go through the hell. That's what it sounds like. It is stranger than fiction. This is the real world. And I'm curious what you guys think about that. So let's take a look at that poll. All right. Why do you feel Kanye West is apologizing now? 5% say he honestly feels bad. 37% said he got the call. 29% say he took a financial hit. And another 29% say, I don't know. But the majority say he got the call. Very interesting, ladies and gents. Very interesting. And it brings me to this question. So now they got Kanye out the way, right? I already saw another op-ed that was released earlier today that said, now that they checked the box with Kanye, all they got to do is get Tucker and Candace and they're all set. I guess they realize they're never going to get from Nick Fuentes or whatever, but you know, he could be moved too. He's moved on other things. You never know. So there's a plan, there's strategy, there's something going on. We don't know what happened to Kanye West before that letter came out. That is always something I want people to think about. We weren't there. So this is where we're at, folks. This is where we're at. Okay, ladies and gents, we are going to do call-in where we take it off to YouTube. We go onto Zoom and we get to chit and chatter. I'm going to take a quick 5-minute break. I'll be back.
Over to call in where we're at.
Yeah, Eric's going to finish the super chats as well. And I'll be back and we'll head on over to call-in.
Yes.
All right.
All right. We'll see if call-in is stranger than fiction. Excuse me. A bit of a show theme tonight. Yeah, this is the part of the show where we move, where we're setting up to move from the YouTube part to the Zoom Hangout call-in part. We still kind of call it call-in. It used to be on a call-in app, which we quite liked, but then of course it got bought out and got rid of, as happens here in capitalism. But so now we do it on YouTube, on Zoom, which works pretty well. So Sabrina right now is taking a little break and setting up the Zoom Hangout room that we'll be using, and then we'll be giving you the link. But in the meantime, I'll be hitting some of these chats. I also wanted to mention, like, especially connected with the earlier story on ICE and dividing Maga and whatnot. I mean, one of the things I always want to kind of hit on, and when we're talking about 11 demands and that kind of thing, is we need to be careful about, are we having the fights that they want us to have, right? And so you can tell whether or not we're having a fight that they want us to have if the fight, if one side of the fight goes against the corporate oligarchy, the power structure, the billionaires. So I would say, like, when it comes to things like culture wars and guns and even immigration, and even to some extent, ICE in the streets, like that's a fight that they want us to have. If we're having a fight over things like wealth taxes, or breaking up huge corporations, or how we should handle corruption from the billionaires, then we're getting into the fights that they don't want us to have so much. And kind of in that vein, the latest 11 Demands Substack post is called Connecting the Dots. And, so there's a connection here with ICE funding in this chart that I originally saw Sabrina post this on Twitter X. And it's about how ICE is funded by both Democrats and Republicans. And you can see it year to year, regardless of party, the ICE funding and the deep state and the DHS, Department of Homeland Security funding goes up. No matter which party, no matter which arm of the uniparty is in power. So reading off from this, there's no shortage of terrible news these days. There's carnage on our streets, carnage overseas. The buck stops with the president, and of course, Donald Trump should be impeached and removed. He's a danger to everyone. But even if that obvious action is achieved, it does not solve or fix the core problem. Both of these major parties are corrupt, and cycling back and forth between the two is just playing their uniparty game. You can see it when you look at ICE funding, as shown in that graph. Year after year, whether it's Republicans or Democrats, ICE funding has increased. It's what the corporate establishment wants to happen. Connect all the dots and you get to the core problem. Your government is corrupt and does not work for you. Your government works for the billionaires and the mega corporations. Understanding that key fact is crucial. But just as crucial is being able to answer the big question, well, what do we do about it? The only way this mess gets fixed is if millions of people get in the street together behind a clear set of demands, with fixing the big money corruption being at the top of that list. So check out the demands and strategy at 11demands.org. It's up to us. We all have a role to play. Be the spark for what has to come next. And you can check out more on that at 11demands.org. So please do check that out, a list of demands and kind of strategies and what we can do about this mess. And we can talk about this shortly in the Zoom call-in hangout, which will be starting shortly. But before we get to that, we're going to read out, actually, I'm going to read out some of these queued up chats. Oops, that's not right. There we go. Sorry, just playing with the layout. All right. Thanks for the super chat. Ms. Sparkle22 says, Sabby is breaking news. Ilhan Omar was attacked while giving a speech tonight. All right. We'll have to check that out. And we can talk about that in the Zoom call in. And thanks for the super chat. JJ413, who says, yeah, got a new project coming out. I put money on it. Actually, I think he actually does have a project coming up. And thanks for this one, Beth, for health. Sabby hears a shout saying, you look lovely tonight. Thanks for that one. And shout out to Courtney Smith, who says, rather if Ye wrote the apology or not, knowing Ye, I'm expecting a single to drop next week. And thanks, J. Abram Allen. He says he's like the rest. They come crawling back after they realize their money doesn't make them white. And thanks, GB, who says Kanye has an album dropping this Friday, so this quote apology is questionable. And thanks for this one, Wasim. The hilarious part about the hilarious part about Australia, they did not allow an Israeli influencer in the country for hate speech towards Muslims. And thanks for this one, Felonious Punk, who's for the super chat. It says, Sabby says, I'm not saying it's fake. I'm just saying FBI letterhead in green. LOL. What a smart QT. And thanks, the Arena Revised, who says, still need Kanye to apologize for scamming black families and putting our kids at risk with that cultish school. And thanks to Zamet1969 for this generous super chat, who says, you and Candace rock with pure truth, invincible. And also, thanks for this one. We got a few in a row here from Zamet. Appreciate it. Says he got the call if he denounces Candace. And also says divide and conquer vibes. And thanks to Constance Ang for the super chat, who says, my guess is he did this for his kids. Sad. All right. And we got one on Rumble here. I'll bring up. Hit the right button. Here it is.
All right.
Gotta do
Thank
that.
you, Mark Pugsley. Sab, you don't get it. These Christians are forgiven, so they do whatever they want.
Christians?
I think it means Christians. I think it means Christians.
I guess he's saying the Christians get forgiven, so they can do what they want. Okay.
All right, let's make it on over to call in, ladies and gentlemen. If you look at the top of the chat, it is pinned there. You just click on that link and you will be able to join us on the Zoom call in. I'll go ahead and open it while I'm in the stream. All I ask is that once you join, just make sure you mute your mic so we don't get the background noise. If you want to speak, there is an option at the bottom of the Zoom on the app, if you're on your phone, to raise your hand. And once you do that, then I know that you want to speak. And that's how we do it. So I know I can call on you. You might have to, depending on what kind of phone you have, you might have to select more at the bottom to raise your hand. Depends if you have an iPhone or Android or not. Eric, once you sign in, I'll go ahead and make you a co-host.
All right. I'm just editing up the Sabby Sabs 2 here.
Yeah, and if we have a hard stop here for the call in at midnight. So I tried, if we get through everybody before midnight, then we'll go ahead and stop then. But we do have a hard stop there. But if you get in a little bit later, but before that time, if you go to sabbysabs2.com, Diva'sDoodles.com, you'll be able to join us as well. It used to be over
the
here.
passcode this time. It's asking me for a passcode.
Oh, it is? Okay. I see people in already.
36913. Let me see if I can get that saved out here properly. Sorry,
Yeah, the passcode should be at the top of the chat too as well. But I see people are getting in pretty easily. So I'll just wait for Eric and then I'll make him a co-host. But if you come in a little bit later, you can also get it at sabbysabs2.com, that link to join Sabby After Dark, to chit chat. Like I said, like we do have a hard stop at midnight East Coast time.
All right, I'm in.
Before then. Okay. All right, Eric, let me go ahead and make you a co-host. Confirm. All right.
You're all in there.
Okay. All right, guys. I will see you over at Callin. A lot of people are already in there, so let's go ahead and get started. And other than that, have a good night, guys. And you know how we do this. Keep up the fight.